Brian Roman and Jennifer Varela are going to answer the most common questions from students around the world about linguistics and interlanguage.
Well, for me, and according to the experts, language is a system where the sound has a meaning. And as you know, we use the sounds, we combine the sounds, and then we get a meaning of them. And the language can be divided in 6 or 7 different subsystems or components. The first one is phonology, which is the speech sounds and the rules. Also, we have morphology, which is inflection and derivation of words. We have syntax, which is the word order and sentence construction. Lexicon, which is the vocabulary. Semantics, word and sentence meaning, in general, the meaning of the words or the sentences. And pragmatics, which is the background or a socio-cultural context. This is the influence of the context in the language. And the seventh is the orthography. That is a very important point that we're going to talk later. First of all, we need to clarify that the ending lex means variations or changes. So if we take the word dialects or dialects, it means that we're going to have variations depending by the region. In the case of social lex, we're going to have variations depending of the social groups. In the case of gender lex, we are going to have variations depending by the sexual differences. And finally, in the case of idiolex, this is a unique mode of expression of each individual. So linguistics is the study of a language, of a specific language. And because of this is a study, we will have different branches. So we will have theoretical linguistics, descriptive linguistics, and applied linguistics. First of all, the theoretical linguistics means the nature of components against the background of the language. Then descriptive linguistics means how one or more components operate in a particular language. And finally, applied linguistics means applies theoretical and descriptive linguistics in a specific area. It could be translation, teaching, or whatever that you can imagine, or it can have a relation with the language. So in my case, and some experts use the contrastive analysis, which is a method or a tool that you compare two languages, source language, which is the first language or native language, and you have a second or target language. And it's very simple. What you do is make or create a description of both languages. What is a description? You can tell about similarities, differences, and interactions between both languages. And next, my partner, and she's gonna explain about the rest of the topic of interlanguage and language. Thank you very much, and see you later.
First of all, you should avoid imposing rules for correct usage. You shouldn't say to the students use X here and Y there just because you saw in a book a list of rules of how to use, I don't know, adverbs. Because you don't know if actually native speakers speak like that. So what I recommend you is to focus on the way that native speaker speaks, and then you can describe those rules to your students, because otherwise they are going to learn in a very unnatural way and they are going to make mistakes. It's important to understand errors because we as guides for these students, we need to improve the process of learning a second language. And how are we going to be able to do it if we don't know what are those mistakes? So first of all, it's necessary to identify the errors, and then we can change what we need in order to achieve our goals. And of course, it's an advantage for these students because they need to understand what are they doing wrong. Definitely not. It would be unrealistic to think that linguistic can answer all the questions that we have, because there are a lot of issues and we cannot pretend that we can find all the answers. So, but what we should keep in mind is that linguistic can help us through this process of teaching a second language. However, it's not replaced by it. It's hard to pick the main problems, but I can tell you that some of the most common ones are the following. There is mislearning. Some students see two words that look alike and they think that they mean the same, and actually they don't. Also, many errors that they make are related to L2 and not L1. And of course, we have different students, which means that they have different types and degrees of learning. Thanks, Brian and Jennifer, for answering all these students' questions about language and interlanguage. See you next week.